The 6 Pillars of Intimacy live in-person weekend is the easiest way for the two of you to move into a place of deeper conversations, more fun, and better sex. Join us this October in Fort Worth, Texas. Get all the details at oneextraordinarymarriage.com/weekend. That's oneextraordinarymarriage.com/weekend. Seats are limited.
From Naples, Florida, this is a One Extraordinary Marriage show. Where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex is taking the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call or text us on the HUG hotline at 858-876-5663 or send us an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's episode, we're discussing lingerie, its role in your marriage, if it has one, and the dynamic around who buys it. Lingerie impacts more than one pillar of intimacy.
Absolutely. And there's a quote from Dolce Gabana that says, lingerie is the maximum expression of a woman's femininity. And I'm just going to slightly amend it to say it can be the maximum expression, because as we're going to talk about in today's episode, that looks different for every woman and for every couple. So I don't want to put the absolute, but I love the heart behind that quote.
Yeah.
Now, we start every episode here at One Extraordinary Marriage with a hug. And a hug is really an opportunity for us to celebrate what you're doing, to share where the two of you are having breakthrough, to share the transformation that you're experiencing. And this hug comes from a 5-star review that we got on Apple Podcasts that starts with, "This podcast clarified my mind and transformed my marriage."
Wow.
There's no one thing that makes an extraordinary marriage. There are many different facets that bleed into something extraordinary. This collection of episodes provides real-life examples of building all the pillars of intimacy and provides a lot of samples of the fallout from crumbling intimacy. Before One Extraordinary Marriage, I had my intimacy priorities and she had hers, but we never found room to work on both together until we had the 6 pillars of intimacy. This is normalized the conversations that could make our marriage work. Then we learned how to have the conversations ourselves. Now we have the One Extraordinary Marriage we were seeking for 37 years. Wow. I wish we had had this advice when we were young.
Wow. That's awesome. You know, what a blessing that we got behind the mics for the first time in January 2010. And to see the ripple effect that it's had over all these years. And, you know, hey, 37 years in, you still got many, many more years ahead. So let's make them extraordinary. I don't care if you've been married 1 year, if you've been married 50. We can still have extraordinary marriages or anything in between. Elisa and I are right there. We're about to celebrate 28 years. And we're still pressing in to have our extraordinary marriage.
Absolutely. And just, we're always so grateful for those 5-star reviews because they actually help somebody else. As much as we love to read them, they actually help others that are seeking content for their marriage and wisdom for their marriage. And so when you leave them, just know that you're impacting more than just Tony and I when we get to read them. Now, as Tony said at the top of this episode, we're talking about the role of lingerie. And you know, we often get asked, where does an episode idea come from? And this one was actually kind of funny because a few weeks ago, I was at Calvary Church in Chicago. They were hosting the Flourish Women's Conference. And just as a side note, if you do get to go to Flourish, if it ends up being near you, I would highly recommend it. It was a great conference. And
I want to put a side note in here as well. If you're in the Chicagoland area, we will be there October 5th and 6th for the Extraordinary Marriage Conference. I will put a link here, 4th and 5th, sorry. I'll put a link here. We'd love to see you because we are going to be there with our good friends, Pastor Marty and his amazing wife and the entire Calvary Church. And you are, as the One family, welcome to join us.
Absolutely. Gosh, you guys don't often get like a double side note. Usually it's just me, but look at him jumping in with that. So while I was at this conference, in between sessions and whatnot, I would get these text messages from Tony, and he'd be like, "What do you think of this? And what do you think of that?" And it was, you know, different lingerie and whatnot. And then he'd ask questions about my size. And so I would say, "Yeah, you know what? I like this. And here's my size." And I honestly, I was just like, okay, he's just goofing around on Amazon looking at lingerie. I'm like, I'm at a conference, dude. Like,
and this isn't new. I just want to make sure that people don't be like, dude, that's really weird. No, this happens at times because
yes,
here's the thing. When you go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/Amazon, that is an affiliate link for us when you purchase something at Amazon. We make a small percentage. but we're showing you different things, right? So I can see at times what people are buying. And I love the different lingerie that I see people buying. And so I'll get into these little rabbit holes of like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I've never seen anything like that before. Or that's a cool one. Maybe I should go check it out. Elisa's gone. I think somebody had bought something similar to what I ended up getting. So it just got me down this sort of like, hey, Elisa, check this out. What do you think about this?
And one of the things I do want to say is that when Tony asks me what size I am not bothered by that question at all. I would much rather have him ask than try and buy something and be really sweet and buy something too small and then we have to return it.
Which we had to do.
We've had to do. Or not know and maybe buy something too large, in which case that just kind of like messes with everybody. And so it's an easier question to be like, just send me the size guide and I'll tell you what size I am. And so don't get bothered by that. But so he's asking me all these questions. I come home a few days later, there's an Amazon package. And this whole thing about the text messages and getting the Amazon package and whatnot really led to this conversation that he and I had and got to thinking about like, what does this look like in the one family? Like what role does lingerie play in a marriage and who buys it and why do they buy it? And what does this all look like? And I want to say, from the very get-go, there's no right or wrong answer to this. Lingerie is not a you must or you shouldn't. It's what does this look like for your marriage? How does this role and play out in your sexual intimacy? Because I will tell you that.
Or how does this piece of garment play out? I don't know if it's a role.
Thank you for the correction. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But getting into, we've, like Tony said, we've been married almost 28 years. So there's been a lot of just different things over the years, right? There's been the matching sets. There's been the little nighties or the one-piece teddy. There's been silk and satin and lace and finding out which materials I really do like and which materials I'm just like, that is just uncomfortable. I don't know. There are a few materials out there where I'm just like, God bless the women that can wear that. I can't.
There are some that have been a little too small and there's not really much there. So it's sort of like, why did we,
what was the point?
What was the point of like me looking at this going, oh, that would be cute. And then I'm like, yeah, you might as well just be naked at this point in time. So, which
is the reason why, just informing you guys, that is the reason why a lot of you don't do lingerie. Cause you're just like, what's the point? I'll just be naked. It's all good. And it's a fun conversation to have. I think it's one of those conversations, like this doesn't have to be like a really heavy, weighty conversation, but it's asking as husband and wife, can lingerie be a tool in our marriage to enhance our sexual intimacy? Can it be something that we talk about with our emotional intimacy? Is there a financial intimacy component to it? Because I will tell you that there is lingerie out there that is very inexpensive. And then there's lingerie out there that is very pricey.
I tend to go to Amazon, just FYI. There's a lot of good stuff. Now, there's imaging there. So for you guys who have had issues with pornography, and if that's going to take you down the wrong path, then please do not. I know there are other sites. I don't know them by name at this point in time, but I have seen them that do not have any models. They don't have anything. It's just like, here it is. This is what it is. Go grab it. You know what I mean? So you have to be aware of where you are and who you are and what may happen when you are viewing this type of item.
Absolutely. And last week in an Instagram stories poll, we asked the question, does lingerie have a place in your marriage? And 61% of you said yes.
Which I think both of us found this to be early on. It was flipped. Very early on this one. I don't know how but early on this one, it was like 40-60 was yes, which was to me like, wow, okay, are we on this other side of, does it have a place in our marriage? So as it went on, and there were thousands of people who saw this and hundreds who voted on it, to say 61% say yes, I still found that I thought it would have been a little bit higher. Honestly, I thought it was going to be like 75% or so. So this is about 15% below what I thought.
What your guess would have been? I don't know. I mentioned it to all my coaching clients at some point in time. I talk about the fact that lingerie can be like gift wrap. That's my favorite analogy. But with that, we asked a follow-up question, and that question was, if yes, what is the role? If no, why not? And there were so many fascinating answers, you guys. Like I love
both yes and no.
Both yes and no. And this is what I love about the One Family and about all of you, is that when we ask these questions, you don't hold back.
Yep.
You share your lives with us. And in turn, you share your lives with other couples who are like, do we or don't we? Should we or shouldn't we? What does this look like? And I think it really provokes a lot of interesting conversations, because for those of you that said yes, it does have a role in your marriage. Some of you said, it's a fun way to spice up the bedroom. Mm. It helps my wife get into a sexual intimacy mindset and helps me build anticipation.
I think for us, that would probably be in there. Mm-hmm. I think that would probably be one of our top 3.
Absolutely. It's one of the ways that I initiate.
That's awesome.
It's part of our foreplay. It breaks us out of the routine.
One thing I want to say is, I do like hey, we can go to bed naked.
Sure.
Cool. For me, why do I like it? I do like the feel of the materials, the different materials. I think there's that sensation in how you use it. Not just that it's on you, but I get to come up against it and feel it. And sometimes you'll take it off and you'll put it on my arm or my penis or whatever it may be. But it's just that feel of like, oh, there's a different sensation.
Yeah, different tactile experience. Absolutely.
There we go. Thank you.
And so, people talked about the desire that it arouses both in husband and wife, right? Because, and I think this is true for a lot of women who enjoy lingerie. It becomes this like knowing of, I'm putting this on for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And so there is, like the one husband that said, gets into a sexual intimacy mindset. I know for me, that's very much the case. Like I'm putting this on for a reason. I'm putting this on because not only does it do something for me, but it also does something for Tony. And so that's a big part of the reason why.
And this isn't movie stuff, folks. Like let's get real. Like,
yeah, no Fredericks of Hollywood here.
No, but I'm not even saying that. There isn't this like the lights are perfectly dimmed and there's candle lights and the music's playing just right. Like, let's get real. We live in the real world here. And so most of the time I'm undressed or I'm like in my sexy underwear because I still have some of mine, like, and I'm already in bed. And so Elisa is putting this on. It's not like this, oh my gosh, like she pops out of somewhere. I mean, there's sometimes that we're just talking.
Still no hanging from the chandelier.
Right, no hanging from the chandelier. But I mean, there's sometimes that we're just talking and she's undressing and she's putting on lingerie. So, and then there are other times when I may be in bed, I'm just sort of like doing my thing and she comes out with it on. So I just want to make sure we understand the playing field we are on. Mm-hmm. It's not like this big, oh my gosh, like sometimes it could be like we're out maybe at a hotel or something and Elisa pulls something out that I didn't know she picked up or whatever. And yet for the most part, like a lot of these things, it's a fun way to spice up our bedroom and what we're doing that day.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to share the why we don't, because I think it's, in anything that we do in marriage, it's important to have the conversation on both sides, because you guys may be wrestling with this in your marriage. You may not have even had a conversation. Again, that's why we talk about these things. Somebody said, we've never prioritized it, and I feel it's too late.
I don't think it's ever too late.
Well, I'm going to go back to the couple, the hug that I read. They've been married 37 years. So that was one that popped out, knowing the hug for today. And I'm like, whoa, it's not worth the money in either of our opinions, or it seems like a waste of money.
Again, you can go to Amazon, and the piece that I just bought Elisa, which is really like the material is...
It's a combination of knit and lace.
Yeah.
So like the front is knit, almost like a super soft jersey knit, but there's lace on the back, and it is like a V-string. So it's very little material on the bottom. Yeah.
So really cool. I think that thing cost me $20. And honestly, I've seen some that are cheaper. Now, again,
sometimes you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for. This one though, for $20, I'm sure Elisa will wear it many, many a times over, and we will enjoy it many, many a times. For $20, I'm all in.
Well, and it's interesting because somebody said it's annoying, too expensive, and not practical. So again, that's talking about the money one. But I think this is also where...
Which is, again, financial
intimacy, 100%. Yep. Like, is there a budget for it? Do we want a budget for it? But the whole annoying, not practical thing, I just kind of want to land on this. Sometimes it's like... it's like the regular clothes that we wear. Sometimes we wear things that are totally not practical, but we do it because like there's a moment to wear something that's not practical or not 100% comfortable. Like, look, ladies, we wear heels. We wear stiletto heels at some point. Most women have worn a pair of heels at some point in time in their lives. Those can kind of be annoying. We still do it because they look amazing and they make our legs look great. So sometimes it's also going, let me go find, and I've said this to a lot of women over the years, go find what you feel confident in. Go find the material that you feel comfortable. Like, you can get into a place where it might not feel as annoying because you've actually explored what works for you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be what works for everybody else.
I like these two here. It seems like my husband can't take me seriously and he just laughs. I think that's something as well. I think we've been there as well in our marriage at times. Yeah. One of these, and we heard from a number of the wives, confidence. Mm-hmm. I've gained weight and feel self-conscious. I'm insecure. I lack the confidence to wear it. And I think that's a real and valid response. I mean, I think there have been times when both you and I, in our own lives, in our own journey of weight gain, weight loss, wherever, we have felt self-conscious. And we're like, nope, not doing it right now. Like, just wherever we are in our lives.
Well, I just finished the beta for Menopause Shouldn't Suck, and we're talking about weight gain and things like that. And that's a very real, like the body image, the self-confidence, the dynamic behind husband and wife, all of those things contribute. And so it's how do we have this conversation? What are we talking about? What does that look like for us in our individual marriages? And we're going to talk about that after this break.
Welcome to What's the Best? Today's contestant is Jane. Ready to win, Jane?
Absolutely.
First question, what's the best match game?
Best Fiends?
Correct. Where can you collect the best, cutest creatures?
Best Fiends.
Right again. And now for the bonus question. Which game celebrates 10 years with 10 days of exclusive unreal gifts?
Best Fiends.
You nailed it, Jane. Tell our audience what they should do.
Download for free on the App Store or Google Play.
Best Fiends.
Hiring for your small business? If you're not looking for professionals on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. That's like looking for your car keys in a fish tank. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't even visit other leading job sites. So start looking in the right place. With LinkedIn, you can hire professionals like a professional. Post your free job on linkedin.com/achieve today.
We're back, and we're discussing the role of lingerie in your marriage. And I want to be really clear. I am emphasizing that word "your" very purposefully, because this is a beautiful conversation for a husband and a wife to have. You heard a lot of the reasons why couples don't, or why couples do use lingerie as a tool in their marriage, and you heard many reasons why they don't. It's too expensive, it's annoying, it's not practical, it doesn't feel good, all of these things. But what could it be? Could it be a tool in your marriage? And do we want to try it as a tool?
And even on the yes side, hey, Elise and I use it, and yet could we have the conversation of how often are we using it? Mm-hmm. Do we use it enough or not enough? And so even on the yes side, there probably is conversation there, because sometimes even like from somebody who enjoys it, and I would think you enjoy it as well, there have been times when the same piece just gets sort of worn way too many times, and it's like we need to add to change it up. We need to add to the wardrobe so it just gets a little diversity here. Mm-hmm.
Well, and it comes to, again, what works and what doesn't, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's the frequency that you're doing it, whether it's the materials that you like, whether it's even the styles, right? I mean, ladies, our lingerie can be as simple as, and I have said this many years, I mean, we've done enough episodes on underwear, like put a matching set on. Mm-hmm. That can be considered lingerie, the bra and panties. Maybe you break out of, the regular panties that you wear, and you wear something a little more revealing or with a different pattern. Maybe it has a pattern, right? It can be as simple as making those small changes to consider that more your lingerie, specifically for your sexual intimacy, right? Every woman has her like kind of everyday pair, right? But it's, what are you wearing when the two of you are being sexually intimate?
And I want to talk to my husbands here. This also leans to you. You got your everyday underwear. You got your everyday stuff that you're wearing. You can also step it up for your wife. You can go get some silk or satin boxers, or the Jinshi, which I don't know if that brand is still around. I know there's some form of that brand around, but they're a little more hugging. They're a little more revealing.
Fitted is the word that he's actually kind of.
Fitted. What word did I use?
You said revealing, and then I forget.
Okay, we're not going back to listen right now. So, but anyways, you can have something else as well. I'm going to put a link here in our episode notes, sexy clothes for him and for her. So you guys can just look at some ideas. We don't have a plethora. I mean, we don't have like hundreds there. We got, 10 maybe, that you can just look at and go from there. It is on Amazon. There are going to be models. So I'm going to just give you a heads up right now. If that's not you, don't look at this one. If it's for you, go check it out. But guys, you too, go get, a couple pairs of something nice, something comfortable, something that you show up in and go hey, I'm dressing up for you too. Because I do think that's something that matters. And yes, is it going to come off? Absolutely. I got it, but it's okay.
Can I just actually, because a lot of people said, what's the point if it's just going to come off? Can I just step into that a little bit?
You can, and then I'll piggyback if I have anything to say.
The reality is that your clothes come off every day anyhow. And interestingly enough, people are still putting clothes on the next day, right? Even though it's going to come off. You put it on in the morning and it's going to come off. So let's not have that be the reason that we don't put on lingerie. Yes, it's going to come off. Big surprise. Okay, move on.
Okay. For me, I find it from an anticipation standpoint. I think there's something about it where, the new piece that we bought you.
Yes.
It's fully covered in the front.
Yes.
And then the lace on the back.
Correct.
But there's still this.
Are you going to put a link to it? You've or is it in the?
It's in that one.
Okay. Yeah, it's you've described this so many different ways. I'm are you just going to include it?
Yeah. Put it there.
Okay.
But I find the anticipation, it's not just oh, okay, you're naked. It's just this, especially in that foreplay sense. And sometimes it doesn't even come off. Truthfully, sometimes it's still staying on. There are things we can do, and
depending on what you're wearing, you can move the material out of the way. I'm just going to be that direct.
Right, and even you guys with your boxers on, you don't always have to take them all the way off. It's okay. So I do think for myself, there to me, it's just the anticipation sometimes, and we have to get into that mode, and we have to, even myself, just let everything else go for a moment. Get into the moment with you. Again, what is intimacy, folks? Closeness and connection.
It's also just a reminder that we do like to see our presents wrapped. We don't necessarily always want them just handed to us unwrapped. And so it is okay from time to time to wrap a present. And by that, I mean, put the lingerie on so it can be unwrapped. We don't just keep doing that just because people have seen the present before. Yep. Enjoy it.
I think a good question we need to go to, though, and discuss is who buys it?
100%. 100%, because there can be a lot of different variations on this. Tony has hit on one pretty substantially during this episode, and that's if you are a man or a woman who has struggled with porn, and the sites that you would normally go to are those that have models in them that could potentially open up a can of worms for you, don't. Don't. Talk about it with your spouse and set up a path where it might be, and I'm just going to, even in our marriage, early days when you were kind of going through your porn recovery and whatnot, you would not have looked at any sites. It would have been hey, Elise, go buy yourself something because I'd like to see you in something new. And that would have been about where the conversation ended. Or I would have just gone and done it myself.
Or we've gone to stores together.
Yes.
And looked together. And you're okay, what do you think about this? Or I like something like this. And I was there with you. And yes, is it, I don't know if I want to say embarrassing, but it's awkward even as a husband, even my 30s and 40s walking into a store with Elisa and I'm okay, this feels awkward. And yet I was willing to be there because I'm supporting Elisa too. And these were in times when Elisa didn't have the confidence that she does today with her body. And so I was willing to step into those places with her to support her.
Absolutely. And, it's getting into, just some of the answers from you guys were, we do it together. He may pick something that doesn't fit, so I do it because I know what he likes. mostly me, but I'll ask for opinions. And that was actually coming from
Cute.
a wife, getting into, says the woman, my husband doesn't like to shop. I get it. But, it's getting into this place where, and even some of the husbands said, I've bought her a few pairs of sexy panties in the past, but she doesn't wear them. And that may be where even like, as we're having this conversation today, where it's like, take it one step further, get curious. Is it a body image thing where it's a size or a style that doesn't work? Is it a color or fabric thing where you just have to learn more about, like, I don't particularly care for lace on my front side. And Tony knows that. So that's why, like,
I've learned. It's not I know now because I've learned, and I've heard Elisa just sort of go like, it's itchy, or I don't like the way it feels on my body. It's like, okay, like you hear it so many times, you got to take that knowledge and use it for good.
And that's all part of this conversation, right? Like, this is just a different way to look at your sexual intimacy tied in with your emotional intimacy. And perhaps, like I said, your financial intimacy, determining what your budget's going to be. But it's really getting into this place of going, what does this look like for us? You don't have to be Tony and Elisa. Please don't be. We tell people this all the time. Be you. What's your dynamic? If it makes sense for her to buy it because he's uncomfortable buying it, if it makes sense for him to buy it because he likes to surprise her every once in a while, it's all good. It's all good. This is potentially another tool in your marriage toolbox. And the more equipped you are in different ways for different opportunities as husband and wife, the stronger each one of your pillars becomes.
That's right. I love it. I love talking about topics like this. Something different. I mean, it's something that I don't think we've ever really talked about on the show, maybe here and there, but do know that our marriages are going to go through many different seasons. And what works now for you may not work in the future, but maybe something you are using now is going to work in the future. So take a moment and talk to your spouse about lingerie. What's it look like? And again, take this from both perspectives. Husbands, stand up as well. Like, hey, honey, would you like to see me in this? Or what would that do for you? We can also show up in our bedrooms, in our sexual intimacy that gives our wives a reason to be like, ooh, I want to be with him. So it goes both ways. I know for us guys, we're a little more visual, but you know what? Our wives like to see us as well. So with that, have a conversation. Talking about lingerie, for some of you, it may be like, we're going to get together and we're going to go look at, the link Tony and Elisa dropped, and we're going to go get our own. We're going to go look for some right now. And for others of you, you may be just taking the first step and just going like, this is our time. We are going to step in and we're going to buy a piece of lingerie or two and explore and enjoy. Whichever way you go, make this week amazing. Make it extraordinary. Dive in, step in. We know that you can have the extraordinary marriage you desire if you use these 6 pillars of intimacy in your marriage. You guys have a great one. We'll catch you next week. Love you guys. Thank you for listening to the One Extraordinary Marriage Show. If you love this podcast, please leave a review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening. Your review helps others find the show and know that it's the right fit for them and their marriage.